passionate about Cleveland sports.
He's going in, touchdown!
Browns, Indians, Cavs, the Big Ten, and more.
Cleveland is a city of champions once again!
Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and beyond.
Swinging it right! To deep right!
Here are your hosts, Andy Billman and Jarid Watson.
Hello and welcome, Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and beyond. He's Andy Billman. I'm Jarid Watson. Thanks for joining us. And we are coming up on a Sunday that doesn't seem to have a lot of hype behind it. The Carolina Panthers, Cam Newton coming to town.
Cleveland Browns.
To take on the Cleveland Browns this Sunday. And after last week's spanking, it's been a very quiet week when it comes to Browns football. Andy, did they get chin checked? Is that what this is right now?
Well, it's funny. That's kind of how I wanted to lead off too. It's like it's been, the Texans game now that's digested. There was so much hype and buzz going into Houston. I think we've really reversed course here in a week, and it's not like we're playing a lower opponent. I mean, the Panthers always bring in a lot of buzz because of Cam Newton, and honestly, the Panthers are 6-6. They're in a playoff run, but yeah, I really noticed it this week. This is the first week in a while. It feels like the Browns have finally lost a little bit of their buzz for the first time this year.
Might be a good thing. I know there's two perspectives on this, right? One perspective is maybe they needed to refocus. Maybe they did need to shut their mouths and put their noses to the grindstone and gear up for this Sunday. And maybe that, this is a product of that. Or are they deflated?
Well, I think they are. I think there was still a lot of hope and dreams of running the table and going to the playoffs. And that's what you want. After that loss, I think it sounds like everybody's in reality mode. Like, this is pretty much season's checked out. I think the other thing, too, that really took a lot of energy, one way or the other, was Hugh Jackson this year. This is the first week I can remember, Jarid, there was really little to no talk about Hugh Jackson at all. And think about that, because he was the Browns coach for a good portion of the year, obviously. And even when he left, Hugh Jackson was still in the news. This is the first week I can remember, Jarid. I have not seen anything about Hugh Jackson, and I think it's been very odd. And I think the Browns have lost some of their buzz. I know what you're getting at. I think it is good because now you can really focus on these last four games. The thing that kind of also is good for the Browns in that perspective too. They need to really, I love that the Browns are in the news a lot, and it's great to be all that stuff, but I think it's also nice, too, that kind of getting away from comments and press clippings. They really could use a lot of that because they're about ready to select a coach, too. And, again, it was getting into that mode where I think it might have turned some coaches off, if that makes sense. So I think all that's good. The only thing that I think is kind of a negative, though, too, is the excitement about the Browns. I mean, people will be in the Browns. I know you and I will be in the Browns. And it isn't like the Cavs or Indians when they're out of it. People will be in these last four games, but it isn't the same intensity either. And I think that's not – and I'm not saying it's like a big deflation, but it is a deflation. And I think that's something the Browns need to really focus on to make that negative to a positive. Like, don't allow this to happen next year again where these December games don't matter. Because here we are again in December, Jarid, and these games, if we're being truthful, I don't know how much they matter when it comes to wins and losses. Well, the one thing I do like about this year, we're not talking about draft positioning.
Exactly.
And that is refreshing.
Isn't that a relief? Yeah, no, in my opinion, what we're focused on now is making sure that we have a solid close to the season, see what Greg Williams has left for everyone, and beyond everything, keep everyone healthy. And by the way, if that means Mr. Ward needs to stay off the field and get his head right and learn how to tackle, then so be it at this point. I don't care because we're going to need these guys coming into next season for sure. I've heard a lot of you're right. The talk this week when it does come to the Browns has been on coaches for next season. That's the only thing that I've even heard out of anyone throughout the entire week is coaching rumors, coaching speculation, and it can go anywhere. Nobody has a beat on this whatsoever. Not one person has come out with any inkling of what the Browns may or may not do. I'm feeling that way. I think that you probably feel that way too. I'm wondering if John Dorsey, we think, will probably has names in his head, though.
I think he has names in his head. I think the big thing that people need to remember is the Haslams always will have a rule over this and will probably have final say.
Right.
I'm starting to become more and more that resigned where Dorsey is going to have a vote for sure, and he's going to control it. But I think at the end of the day, he's got to negotiate his way through the Haslams, too, so they land in a place where they're happy. A lot of people this week have been talking about Lincoln Riley. That's the hot name of the week. And McCarthy's been in and out as well, I've been seeing. I just don't think this is – I just have learned over the years, Jared, don't try to guess who the next Browns coach will be. It's usually we're all wrong. I cannot tell you how many times – the only time I had a vibe was the last one, Hugh Jackson. I kind of felt like Hugh Jackson was the hot name.
You didn't have Chud?
Yeah.
You didn't have Mike Pettin?
I didn't have Mike Pettin. I did not. I never, when I heard the name Pat Shurmur, I go, who was Pat Shurmur? Like, I never had to look for like media guy trying to figure out who he is. I had heard of Chud before because Chud was he's an Ohio kid.
Yep.
Who he's actually from Toledo, Ohio. So I had a background on Chud, and he was kind of an up and coming hot name. So I knew who he was. I didn't think he was going to get the job, but I knew who he was. So at least I had some reference point. Yeah, Pettin, I had no idea. I knew he was in Buffalo. I knew Rex Ryan was championing him a lot.
Right.
But outside that, I really didn't know. And Shurmur, again, I think he came from the Eagles, if I remember correctly. But even then, I don't really remember much about who he was. So, Lincoln Riley's a hot name right now. For people go like, well, what do you think of Lincoln Riley coming here? I think it's really hard to tell with these college coaches who play a spread offense. The only thing that's in the back of my head, Jared, I guess I'll be a little sour grapes here. I just don't want another Chip Kelly coming into this league.
No.
That the Browns have. And
no.
That really fell on people's faces. I'll be honest with you, this feels a little bit like Chip Kelly to me. I like the Baker Mayfield connection, obviously, a lot, so that gives me more positive, which I'm sure more people feel the same way. If I'm being truthful, though, I think Lincoln Riley does have a little bit of Chip Kelly in this, and that I'm not in love with that. I know people around the NFL think very highly of him. Dorsey's been in his last 2 football games. That's not a coincidence, by the way. I think that is something. I mean, that's just something, Jared, that you have to note.
Well,
I mean, it's not just random. I mean, there's only so many players in Oklahoma you can look at for the draft. To go to back-to-back Oklahoma games and to really take a look at players. I mean, come on. I mean, so he's obviously taking a deep look at Lincoln Riley.
Right.
Here.
You can. Yeah. There's no other way to look at that. I mean, there isn't. There's just not.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, McCarthy was the other name I heard a lot about this week, and it's funny. There's a lot more people what you're referencing last week who are, a coach has been fired. You can't win with Aaron Rodgers in big games. I would tell. I would just say, though, I think he's a very bright coach. Sometimes people need a refresher in their career to really feel better about themselves. And what I mean by that is
players and coaches alike.
Yeah, agreed. I think that would be good for him. The only thing I've been hearing people saying is offense was stale and Green Bay. I think the one thing I will give McCarthy a pass on, I think there was a lot going on with Aaron Rodgers. And everybody would love to coach Aaron Rodgers, but that's also part of the dilemma. You have to keep him happy. And it's been I don't know how you read that situation, but the more I've been reading into McCarthy and what's been going on with Green Bay, it sounds like it takes a lot to keep Aaron Rodgers happy.
I mean, this has been a problem that we've noticed when it comes to Aaron Rodgers over the past 4 seasons, from his issues with his family to the women that he's dated to now the issues between him and McCarthy, that it sounds like Rodgers is finding himself in a spot where his personality seems to be clashing with almost anyone in his life. Maybe he's going through his own things. That's purely speculation from my view from way over here, but it's based on what I've seen as a consistent issue when it comes to Aaron Rodgers and people that are in his life or not in his life anymore. What I'd also say is with McCarthy, you can tell he's auditioning for another job with the way that he's left Green Bay. He asked for permission to go back into that locker room and talk to those guys, got himself the standing ovation. They all love him. Besides Aaron, of course. He's leaving, and he took out full page spreads in some of the local newspapers thanking Green Bay fans. So
Smart.
That move on his part, wow. I'm going to say it, even though I know, look, I'm kicking a dead horse. Take notes, Hugh.
Wow.
I mean,
well, yeah.
What a night and day.
Okay,
all right, I'll let that go, but I just had to say it. But McCarthy is setting himself up for the next possible move, and possibly to Cleveland. Who knows?
Yep. Here's how I'll leave on the coaching thing right now. I think if I had to say who my favorites are at the moment, I do like McCarthy. I'm not in love with McCarthy. I know a lot about Matt Campbell. I think Matt Campbell would be a great hire, to be honest with you. I think he's got a lot of Ohio in him, being from Massillon. I'm a Toledo graduate, and he coached at Toledo, and I know people were very impressed by him. I know people think very highly of him. I think also he'd be one that'd be a good adjusting coach, meaning I think he would take a really good look at Greg Williams and take a look at Freddie Kitchens to see if that makes sense to keep him on. So I think it's one thing to say, hey, Greg Williams is your head coach. I think it's a different thing to say, hey, Greg Williams is the defensive coordinator. I think Matt Campbell will take a real serious look. The other guy I keep hearing more and more about, and I don't know much about him, but I'm going to take people's word for it, is Tobe, the special teams coordinator from the Chiefs. I kind of like the idea, Jared, of having someone who's a special teams coordinator who is familiar with Dorsey coming over to the Browns. I like that a lot. What I mean by that is, again, when you're special teams coordinator, you'll make good hires for both coordinators on both sides of the ball. Getting a good young offensive coordinator, getting someone who's into the league at what's hot right now, and also defensively wise, choosing someone that makes a lot of sense. You're getting someone in there who's not going to be so controlling on either side of the ball. Right. And I like that.
Well, and you're also talking about a team that has had issues on special teams all season. So.
Well, that's my God. Yeah, I mean, we can go down that road too. The other thing I'll leave on this coaching thing. So those are my three. I think at the end of the day, though, if I'm saying who's the Browns' top of the list, I mean, unless we're misreading a situation, it sounds like Lincoln Riley is a really popular name right now in Berea. The other thing, too, that I would read into all these things, because Matt Campbell's season's ended and just looking at how things are going on, I'm surprised his name has really not come up anywhere. So I think Matt Campbell's name, I'm not saying he's out of the running, but I found out to be interesting in the last 2 weeks, Jared. I have not heard his name come up anywhere.
No, neither have I.
Neither have
I. Do you think that he'd want to leave Iowa State after? I mean,
yes.
Yeah. You think
Iowa State's not a place you can win a national championship. I hate saying that. And to people who went to Iowa State, I apologize.
I guess I was saying, do you think that he thinks his business there is done?
I think it's run its course, and I'm a Purdue fan, and even I think Purdue's got more of a style and sexiness to it of winning games and possibly even getting to a big playoff game. I think that's possible at Purdue. I really do. That's pipe dreaming, but I think you can pipe dream it. Boy, at Iowa State, I don't know. You're asking for a lot. If I'm being honest, Jared, I think you're asking for a lot. Here's a good difference. For instance, at Iowa and Purdue to me are kind of similar. You can do it. You can figure ways out. Iowa State, God, I don't know. You're battling Nebraska and Iowa for recruits on top of your Iowa States. You're playing Oklahoma and Texas every year. It's tough. You know what I mean?
Well,
it's tough.
I get that. It makes sense. And let's just jump back to the fact, like we said, Dorsey visiting twice. It does look like that's the direction that at least – do you think that it's the Haslams sending him out there to take that look at Lincoln?
I do. I also think though. I think Dorsey – I do think there's a little bit of that in there, if I'm being truthful. I will say this, though. Dorsey does his homework. And that's the one thing I've really appreciated Dorsey already from. And by the way, this is almost the year anniversary of when Sashi Brown was ousted and Dorsey was brought in. And, I'll say this, from what we've seen in the past, from whether it was Shashi Brown to the Heckards. I mean, think about this as Browns fans. We've seen all sorts of GMs, from analytics to really supposed to be football guys from the homegrown family tree. Dorsey is the first one, Jared, I'm at peace and calm with. It reminds me of Francona. Like, in Dorsey, I trust.
Well,
like,
and I'm the same way. I feel that even if he's a good soldier, got it, Mr. Haslam, I'll head out there. Yep, I'll go back out there.
Yeah,
and you know what he's going to do? He's going to come back with all the reasons why, if he has to. He'll have the specific reasons why not. You want to know why not? He's not going to come back and go, oh, you know what? Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. No. If it's not going to work, he's going to be honest and he's going to be frank about it. So I can trust in that sense. The other one I want to bring up, just to mention, because I know that there has been speculation, because we all know that he's wanted to come back here, is Bruce Arians. He kind of showed his hand in an interview that he did last week, where he basically expressed the fact that he even admitted that he loves everything about football. It's just the hours away from family. And he's at a point in his life where he's got grandkids and he wants to be around the family. And as much as he would do anything to come to Cleveland and only Cleveland, I think that was a very telling statement that he would want to do it, but he doesn't want to be away from his family.
I think that's a guy who I can't believe I'm saying this. I do like Bruce Arians. I never met him. I actually have met him. What am I saying? I've met him. He's a nice guy. I'll just say this, though. I felt like that was more of a white flag move, meaning, the Browns don't want to hire me. Okay, I'm going to go back into retirement mode.
Yeah.
I hate saying that, but that's what that felt like to me, if I'm being honest. I think at the end of the day, with someone like Bruce Arians, it's going to have to be if that's the hire, it's a perfect piece hire, meaning this is Bruce, you're going to hire this offensive coordinator, or you're going to keep Freddie. Like, everything would have to be lined up, right? Like, I think the Browns would actually have to tell him, like, this is what we're wanting if you want to do this. I love his passion for the Browns. I think it's just going to, again, it's a perfect fit. I think a lot of things would have to go his way, and I just don't think it would or will. So I think Bruce is fairly out. So to kind of wrap up this week before we finally get to the game on the field, so we both agree that buzz has been lost. I hate to say it, but we gotta finish up on Hugh a little bit. I want to get your opinion. I think finally the Hugh hangover is done. I think unless something came out last night as I was having wine at the bar, I don't think there was anything going on with Hugh Jackson, right? We're done with the comments. It feels like it's the first. Do you feel the same way? I feel like the Hugh talk is finally done in Cleveland.
Yep.
Until 2 weeks from now, but it's done.
I know, right? Yes. No, I agree, because what's left to be said?
I agree. We kind of hammered out the coach thing. So let's go back to on the field before we get to the Panthers. What is, I'll answer this first. What's the goal for the Browns for these last 4 games? So you're at the last quarter poll. And I think the big thing for the Browns, you and I kind of alluded to it, I really want to see some development, and we'll get to some players on the field offensively. I would love to see, though, this team really take the next step offensively. Meaning, I've always felt in these last 4 games, big improvement with Baker, obviously, and with Nick Chubb. But we seem to be stuck in the mid-20s. I would like to see this team get more into the high 30s in a couple of these games. And I think you could do that with the Bengals.
Well, and I think that Callaway's a big part of that. His improvement from, and I'm only bringing this up because it's a stat, from the time that Hugh was here to the time that Hugh is gone has been a night and day move for him.
Yep.
He's gone from like one of the bottom of the barrel wide receivers ranking wise up to close to top 10 with some of his with his yards, with his touchdowns, and being able to catch the ball. Of course, he had that awful fumble last week, but I think Callaway's a big part of that improvement on offense as well, because he can get away from defenders.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. I think the other one is, can Nick Chubb, how much is he going to be able to handle as a bell cow, right? I think that's a big thing. So, we kind of gone through it, so I'll keep going through some more. I think I agree with you about Callaway. I think Nick Chubb, the big thing I want to see, can he handle being the back? I think he's going to. I think already I've made up my mind, but he can prove himself and prove me wrong. But I think he needs a helper. I really do.
I think that the Browns will do that. I think the Browns are going to draft a guy. I don't know how early. I don't know that I want them to draft an early round guy.
No. But he needs a helper. I'm telling you. I would like to see Higgins finish the year healthy too. I think that's big. I think I'll tell you another guy too. And boy, this guy's been all over the map. I mean, from getting 9 catches a game to 2 last week. Duke Johnson, it'd be nice for him to get into a rhythm before the year's out, right?
Whose fault is that?
I'll be honest with you, Jared. I'm having a hard time reading what's going on with Duke Johnson, and not in a negative way. Just like I just don't think he's ever been in rhythm this year. Am I wrong by saying that? I just don't feel that way. I just don't feel. Like
I think that when the Browns' offense isn't in rhythm, he doesn't have as many opportunities. I think that ends up being, which in my mind seems silly, because when the Browns' offense isn't in rhythm, I think he should be the guy that they're giving the opportunities to.
Yeah, I agree. I'll end on this note. I think he needs to get into the rhythm before the year's out, because he's going to play a big role in the next year, and you want to make sure you find him some sort of role where him and Mayfield are comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I'm saying this. That's the one thing I haven't seen. Let me ask you, I don't think they've been comfortable yet together, Duke and Mayfield.
No.
Isn't that weird? Strange.
Well, again, these are all things that I'm glad that we can at least have these conversations. And on the back end of a Brown season where we're not ripping our hair out over this team, we're really looking at a team that's on its way to finding their identity. And hopefully we'll have that by the first quarter of next season. I'm good with that. That's why the only thing I worry about is health. I am concerned about health through the end of this season. And if I had to say that I had one other concern and one other thing that I want to look for with this team is, can you take the last 2 divisional games of the season? And that would be nice to see them compete or win both of those games.
Well, it's funny. They're both on opposite pendulums. You better win the Bengals game at home.
Yeah.
Because the Bengals are playing out the string this year. So there's no reason not to win that game. And Baltimore's for a playoff game. I was going to end on that, too.
You can ruin it.
Right. Because Baltimore is in the playoff hunt for sure. I mean, they're in the playoffs, I think, as of now. The other game, too, is the game next week. The Broncos have so much riding on. They are so hot right now. And I know they play a game that they're supposed to win again this weekend. The Browns, it would be nice to see how the Browns compete with a team like that on the road. That's not the Texans. Yeah. That's similar talent levels and similar positions. I think next week in Denver, I don't want to get too much into that. That's next week. I think that's a fascinating game.
Yeah.
Fascinating game Saturday night at 8 o'clock.
Well, and you know what? A win in Denver would always be nice for a Cleveland Browns fan.
It's always nice. Never enough. Let me ask you, and then we'll get into the Panthers game. Do you have any interest at all for the Browns draft? Meaning, do you want to see the Browns lose games to get a better draft pick?
No, absolutely not.
I agree. Are we all off that? Okay, good. Because I've not heard that, by the way. Not hearing that from Browns fans. I'm just saying. I am not a believer in that. You're talking to the wrong guy as we get to the Cavs later in the show. But I'm telling you, I do not like losing for a purpose of better draft picks.
No, the only perfect draft pick that we've ever needed is a quarterback, and we've got him. End of story. I'm done.
Agreed. And so then we bring on the Panthers this Sunday, 1 o'clock. They've lost 4 in a row. So to kind of break down this game, very similar times to Houston. But not as talented, obviously. Mm-hmm. If you go onto the offensive side, Cam Newton, his numbers aren't that bad when I was looking at him this week. He's still a great dual threat quarterback. Really runs the ball a lot, especially in the red zone. So he always has a nose for the ball inside the 20. And the other big guy in this team who's finally been healthy this year is Christian McCaffrey, it reminds me of Roger Craig, his numbers, like over 1,500 yards, 4th in the NFL. Runs the ball well. I hate to we pick on this, but I'll tell you, I think maybe this is another thing I should mention. I would love to see the Browns really stopping the run at some point.
I don't know that they're going to.
They are in the bottom. Yeah, they're in the bottom 5th of the league in rushing defense.
No, this game might take points to win. This game might take 30-plus points to win.
Here's the thing I noticed about the Panthers. If you take Cam Newton and McCaffrey out, that's about all they got. Greg Olson's out for the year. They really don't have any other names to stand out. Newton also is a dink and dunker. And Norv Turner's his offensive coordinator. Norv, as we all remember, Norv can't just run the ball. He has to pass at some point. So I think that's where it helps, where the Texans will run the ball and don't care about style points. It kind of is not the Norv Turner way. Cam Newton's had a hard time getting the ball down the field. So they've not put a lot of points in the end zone, I guess is my point, Jared. So even though they control the clock at times and they move the ball, getting points in the end zone has not been so easy for the Panthers lately. So this is a good test because, again, you're playing a running back who's healthy, who's really had a strong year. That all equates to things that the Browns are just not good at.
No, and that's a very difficult thing. I can't see them just all of a sudden being good at stopping the run this week.
I know.
I just can't see it.
And by the way, outside of really and even the Bengals run the ball decently, I'll tell you, the Ravens are about it. I mean, the Broncos run the ball well. Again, the Bengals always seem to do a good job with Bernard and with Mixon. Mm-hmm. And, the Ravens are about the only time. The Browns are going to have to start learning how to stop the run. And I think that's the one thing, too, that Greg Williams needs to figure out if he's back next year. It's great to have this ferocious, tough defense that makes turnovers, but my gosh, you have to slow down the run. You have to. It's been eye-opening this year with this team, how they can't stop it. Right? I mean, it's been eye-opening at times.
All I keep seeing when I think about this is just constant over pursuit. It seems to be their issue. They don't fill holes, they don't fill gaps, and it's because they have this issue with over pursuing and not being aware of where the ball is going.
Well, what's interesting too is this is the first year. Tell me if I'm wrong. The Browns have not given up a 25-plus pass all year, and so I guess that's a positive. And they've definitely made turnovers. But they put such an emphasis on those two areas that everything else has been kind of leaking oil. Like, you can dink it. I'll tell you, the Panthers are going to dink and dunk, and the Browns will allow you to do that. They're going to have a lot of drives in this game. Third down, by the way. Now, that's another one. Let's get the team off the field. I think is a key in this game, too. But the running game, I've just repeated myself if I say it again.
Well,
I just love seeing them slow down.
If they're going to use this style going into next season, I think that they're going to need to draft another premier pass rusher. Because you're going to have linebackers that aren't going to be playing the run as well. I mean, I don't know that they're going to change the way that they want to play their linebackers.
All right,
Not to
I'm
say
going
that
to go down this road real quick.
But...
Right. We haven't talked about the other side of the ball, but before we do that, there's been a lot of talk on social media about Myles Garrett. And I have been actually to the point of where I'm getting annoyed with it, where I've heard some people saying, oh, the Browns probably shouldn't have Myles Garrett because you're not enjoying his talents. And I've definitely been critical of him, and I know he's good. I get that. But, you just brought up that we need to draft another pass rusher. I'm surprised we're saying that, Jared, after we drafted him number 1 overall 2 years ago.
I understand, but a lot of that I think has to do with scheme, and that's why I'm saying it.
Scheme, yes, but scheme, no. I just want to say to people out there, I appreciate Myles Garrett. I would be really bothered to all hell if he got hurt and traded. I want him on this team. I'm just telling you, as someone who watches a lot of NFL football, I've seen him still yet to this day take over a game, and I'm surprised. I thought that would happen. I thought Denzel Ward took over the Ravens game, and that's why they won. I've not felt that way at all yet about Myles Garrett in any of these games. I haven't felt that way.
He's had issue with getting to the slippery ones. We saw that last week.
Yep.
Not to say he didn't. Did he get 1.5 last week, I think, maybe?
He did. And by the way, I thought Myles Garrett, that was one of his best games all year. I really thought he did a nice job in that game.
I think, look, he's going to get better. He's going to get better.
I'm just saying this.
It, and I do appreciate
I'm not sweating it either, but I've gotten to the point where it's like, I kind of know where you're going, and I kind of agree with you. Look, let's just say everybody loses their brain and Bosa's there at number 8 or 9. That won't happen. But if Bosa's there at number 8 or 9, I would be like, draft him. Because that would help. Or again, it's not going to happen.
I don't know. We've got picks to get rid of if we want someone, right?
Yes. Yeah, but again,
let's move up.
I think that is something where I'm surprised I'm saying that. I didn't think that would be a need, but I do feel that need. On the flip side of the ball, I would love to see Baker this week, Jared, really come out with what we saw in Cincinnati in this offense. Intensity, focus. Let's put some points on the board quickly and really put the pressure on the Panthers defense, which is very middle of the pack, good against the run, not great against the pass. They're a very typical team to read. I think Chubb's going to have a hard time running, so it's a big week for Baker. He's going to need to pass and play well early to get this team in a flow and a run.
You use the word focus. The intensity minus focus equals 3 picks.
Yes.
Intensity plus focus equals what he did the week prior.
Yes.
So, and we also, keep in mind, there's also the reminder of, even when this kid's not focused, he knows how to reel it back in.
Yes.
If Callaway wouldn't have dropped that ball, then the Browns would have scored 20 points in a quarter on the Texans defense.
Yes.
So there's not, ifs and buts, of course, but still, that's something to keep in mind, that even if he comes off the rails a little bit, he can pull it back in if needed. The focus, the energy, the excitement. I'm hoping that they bring it. It's home crowd, home field advantage. I think that they're going to come out wanting a W. I do.
No, I do too. Injury front real fast. Ogunjobi, I think it's 50-50. Sounds like it's a game time decision with his biceps injury. You kind of hit upon it, and I don't want to do too much on it, but I know where you're going. Denzel Ward is not going to be playing on Sunday. It'll be interesting to see. He's still in concussion protocol, and again, for people who saw the same tackle I saw him make, it did not look like a clean tackle after Denzel Ward got up. That was a weird play. So I'm not surprised he's not playing this week. Kind of what Jared's alluding to. It'll be interesting to see when he comes back. I do think it's important Jared comes back this year, though. I do, if he can.
There's reasons for that. There's team reasons for that. There's end the season on a good note reasons for that. Yeah, agreed. You're talking about a guy who's taken 2 hits to the head this year.
I know,
and that's scary, and it's scary,
and that's very fair.
Everybody comes back from those different, I worry about that stuff. That's all.
No, I hear you, and I think that's very fair. For everything that the Browns have done nicely with Dorsey and these draft picks, boy, Austin Corbett's not in that peg. He's definitely the square peg in the round hole. Yeah. He's out again with a foot injury. I don't want to bang the drum too much on this, but he is, for everything that's gone right with the Browns draft picks, he's been the one. Boy, it has not worked out.
Well, he's not been. Yeah, he hasn't been on my radar the entire season. I just haven't.
No, and it's strange. And I hear people saying, "Oh, the Browns need offensive linemen." It's like we just drafted one in the high second round. So Austin Corbett, it has not worked out so far. Hopefully the offseason he can get himself right, because it's not worked out this year. On the positive end, Terrence Mitchell's back, unless something drastically changes between now and Sunday. Sounds like he's back in the game. The Panthers are a 1-point favorite. Who do you like, Jared, this Sunday?
Browns 28, Panthers 20.
I think it's going to be 24-21 Browns. I think it'll be very close. I think the Browns do come out humming. The only thing in this game that we kind of hyped on 10 minutes ago, I just hope they have enough to slow down McCaffrey. When he gets out and about and he can catch and run the ball, it can be a long day for this defense. I just hope they have enough to keep him at bay. With that said, this team has lost 4 in a row. They're coming to a cold weather site. I think the Panthers don't play well in cold weather. I know they're not exactly Tampa Bay when they're coming north, or the Saints when they've been playing in the Dome all year, but I think the Panthers fit that mold of warm climate coming north, playing against the Browns. Real quickly to off-the-field stuff, I thought it was cool that Clay Matthews made the first cut of the NFL Hall of Fame. I think he gets forgotten sometimes, Jared. I'm a big Clay Matthews fan.
Not by me, brother. There's not a day in my life I forget about Clay Matthews. Come on now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to. Again, I don't want to.
I made my vote. in my fan
I
vote.
hope he makes it. I think he's not appreciated enough. I would just love to see Clay make it.
Absolutely.
It would be great. It would be great. Around the NFL, as I said, I think this story's not going anywhere. More about the Hunt story. Did you get a chance to read that yet, Jared, on ESPN.com?
I admittedly, Andy, when I see stuff like that, there's a lot of times where I stay away from it because it sickens me. I should look into it a little bit more, but I haven't. So.
Yeah, I read the report, and it was pretty thorough. The one thing you can really get out of this, that's a shame, but you kind of got that vibe anyways. This is just one of those drunken debacles that happened that happened basically at the 9. Meaning the girl had way too much to drink. She was underage. There definitely something was going on where they were hanging out. Some misunderstanding definitely happened. What was said, what was not said, I'm not sure. You can debate that forever. Sounds like one of his friends wanted to have sex with one of the women. She said no. And then from there, all hell broke loose. Sounds like the cops were having a hard time trying to figure out who's right and who's wrong. Jared, it's one of those stories where you read and, I think, again, either more to come or we're never going to get the full story here.
Well, another issue of this, you mentioned the cops, and let's briefly recognize that Cleveland police have got eyes on them already as it is. If you're a listener to other podcasts beyond this one, the 3rd season of Serial is basically about the Cleveland Police Department and the justice system in Cleveland. Yeah, and it's it'll make you want to rip your hair out, Andy. So, and I say that with love. But the eyes are on, and so. Like I said, maybe I'll look more into it. You get yourself into these situations. I sound like the dad at this point. Like, what are you doing?
Well,
what are you doing?
Well, I'll tell you, when you read the report, again, it just reminds more than happened here that's being said. Cameras were turned off. A lot of stuff here we're never going to know what truly happened that night. What you do get out of it, though, is very bad misunderstandings on both ends and no excuse for what he did at the end of the day, obviously. What Kareem Hunt did was terrible. Ooh. And that's what I really got out of that. It's like, all that said, you can't do what he did at all on any level. So that's what it comes down to. It'll be interesting to see. I think the one thing I'll take out from the NFL perspective, I don't know where the Chiefs come out. That's the other thing. I don't know how the Chiefs come out on this at the end. I think they're going to take a big hit at some point, Jared. But I'll tell you, the NFL, again, that's the one thing I did when I put down the article. My boy, they do not come out looking well at all again in this situation. It's not good. It's not.
What though, Andy? Not coming out looking well hasn't hurt them, has it? Not enough. Not enough.
We'll see. I'll tell you the truth. They've been dinged a lot the last 2 years, and it's starting to chip away. And it's not big. I'm not saying you're seeing floodgates.
Right.
I'll say this, Jared. It's chipping and chipping and chipping away. And again, I felt this way. Up until this story, it's been a pretty clean year for the NFL. Up until that.
Well,
and again,
I only mention it because I bring it up because, when, even chipping away at some of these things, it still is not enough to get them to act differently.
I agree. They definitely are not taking an iron fist, and I will say that. They need to put on an iron fist on top of an iron fist, two of them on both hands, and they're just not doing that.
Well, because we're worried about things that aren't. Oh God, they worry more about different issues that are misconstrued and aren't involving abusing other human beings. So I don't.
They need to start taking. They need to start. So, anyways,
go down that road.
Yeah. Well, anyways, they need to start cleaning it up a lot.
Yep.
This week in the NFL, all the teams are playing now. No more bye weeks. There are some games here and there. I'll be honest with you. The two that stand out are the two high-profile games. Sunday Night Football, Rams Bears. It's a great game, especially in Chicago at night. It'll be interesting to see how LA plays in that kind of environment in the cold. See if the Bears can bounce back, too. It's a big game for the Bears. And then on Monday Night Football, Vikings Seahawks. That almost feels like a playoff game. Big game there in Seattle, and boy, Minnesota's gotten no breaks in their schedule this year. Minnesota could really use that victory. It feels like every week the Vikings are on the road. I just have felt that way all year about them. So both are good games. My picks last week were awful, so if you took them, I apologize. So let's get back on the right path. That was just a doozy of a week. I felt when I saw the Giants score quickly, I'm like, oh, crap. Like, it just felt like one of those gambling weekends. So giveth and taketh, and I giveth away. But I'm still above 500. I got to get my record. I'll do it for the next podcast. So I get up there. But, boy, I was 0 for 4, and it was a bad 0 for 4 last week. So I'm going to take the Browns again. They're +1. It's basically a pick 'em game, but it's +1. So I'll take the Browns as a dog at home. I just can't see the Panthers winning this game. It's funny. Like, I don't feel great. I don't have a good vibe about the Browns this week. But the other half of it is, are the Panthers really going to win this game after losing 4 in a row? I don't think so. I think the Browns win. I hate this team a lot. Again, Brian, you kind of mentioned it. There's nothing better than a win at Denver, but they are playing well. I'm surprised they're only 3.5-point favorites in San Francisco. I love Denver in this game. I think Denver wins. I think this team, for whatever reason, has turned on the switch and they're playing for a playoff bid. Really, really come out hot. And I think the Saints have a bounce-back game against the Bucs. They're 9.5 points. It is in Tampa. But if you've been watching Tampa all year, they don't have a home field advantage. And truthfully, I think Tampa is about ready to go through another coaching purge. I'd be surprised I think, this is not that podcast, but Tampa Bay is about ready to go through some big change.
Yeah, they have to.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Winston era is over. I think the Dirk Cutter era is over. I think the Saints win that game and win it easily. They're 9.5 points. So Browns, you get the point. They're an underdog at home. I think you take the Browns. Broncos are hot. I think they stay hot against San Francisco on the road. And the Saints, I love the Saints this week in Tampa. So those are my 3 this week. And, right before we move on to the wrap up, you kind of teed up on it. It's really nice for the Browns. Going back to the on-the-field stuff, it would be a bit of a bummer for me if the Browns were to lose to the Panthers this week.
Well,
I'll be honest.
I can tell you how they'll do that. And we talked about focus earlier. If they come out jumpy, and we have to deal with, just pay attention to the penalties in this game. That's what I'm going to say. Pay attention to the penalties. I didn't want to forget it. I wrote it down because that to me is going to be the sign of whether they grew from last week or not.
Yep. I think it's a great point. Before we get to the Cavs,
Ohio State football.
We should wrap up Urban Meyer. I didn't put it in the rundown, Jared, but I do want to talk about Urban real quick because now everything's been settled down.
Yeah.
There seems to be 2 schools of thought here, and then we should get to the Buckeyes last because that's the most important for people out there. The school of thought is Urban's health is at risk, which it is. He's definitely going through some health issues, and this is it. He's gone. He's never going to coach again. And then there's people who I kind of think this way, where I think he'll coach again. I think he'll find the next gig. I just think he needs to change his scenery. After hearing the press conferences, Jared, and reading everything, before we move on to the Buckeyes and Mr. Day, how did you feel about the press conference and everything played out with Urban?
I'm ready to move on.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of speculation over whether Ryan Day can continue the recruiting that Ohio State expects, whether Ryan Day could avoid the 3-loss season, like a lot of people are thinking is a real possibility for the Buckeyes next year. We've already lost 2 commits over this.
That happens.
It's expected. Yeah, no, it does. You're right.
Yeah, that could have happened to anyone. Let's say it
could have happened if Urban stayed, to be honest.
Urban stayed. Lincoln Riley comes in and replaces Urban. When you lose a coach like Urban Meyer, you're going to lose some recruits. It's going to happen.
I liked Chris Carter was very open about his concern with Urban and his health.
Yep.
I think that Chris spoke the most openly about that in a way that really put, a real look on, Urban. And I think that if we talk about that, that's why Urban hesitates to fully say, I'm going to stay retired. And it comes from in his mind, if he can get healthy. Everyone around him thinks that that's not necessarily going to happen, that he's going to have to manage this. and to stop worrying about getting back to coaching. Urban thinks, if I can get rid of this, I can go back. He's stubborn. I think, that's his stubbornness.
I just think Urban Meyer will coach again. I think he'll find somewhere. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's like at a school like Iowa State, where the pressure is not as intense and going 8-4 and 9-3 is a really good year. Just saying. As it comes to Ryan Day, I think he is in a tough position because and I think the Ohio State fans were exhausted like you were of Urban. I think all that's very fair, but he was very successful. And Tressel was really successful.
Yeah.
I think it doubles down because both of them were so good. And to be fair, I know John Cooper couldn't beat Michigan. John Cooper was a hell of a coach, okay? So you got 3 pretty good track records, and here comes in Day. And this is the first time, I mean, even Tressel coached at Youngstown State. We kind of knew what we were getting into. Obviously, Cooper coached at Arizona State.
Which, by the way, congratulations to Tressel. He's been he is now going to be the president at Youngstown State University through 2020.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I knew that was in the works. I'm a big Tressel guy too, so I think that's cool that he's I'm sort of, I don't want to do this right now. I'm surprised still he's not coaching somewhere either. So maybe
I love what he's done to that school. When I go home, man, he is. There's a lot of upgrading and beautifying around that area that has made a world of difference. Although they did tear down my old bars. I miss that, but they've really cleaned it up. It looks nice.
Well, and he's basically become the mayor, which he deserves.
Yeah.
In that area of the country. The one thing, though, I would say is I want to bring it up real quickly here. I'm looking at the Ohio State schedule. They don't really have a big non-conference opponent next year. Cincinnati's kind of the only thing that sticks out. I mean, Florida Atlantic, no. They got Miami, Ohio. I just want to make sure I'm not missing the game that they have a big ticket. Not really a big ticket non-conference game next year. So what I would say to Ryan Day is like you got Ryan. What's up?
Might be a good thing for Ryan Day.
You go where I was going to go. I think that's what is needed here. A lot of home games too. Indiana's your first road game. They go to Nebraska. Nebraska will be better. But again, and by the way, no Purdue. I'm sure people were worried about that. Just teasing Buckeye fans.
No, but it might be tough with a Penn State back-to-back with Michigan at the end of the season too.
I noticed that.
Even a Northwestern and Wisconsin in the middle of the season is a tough back-to-back.
Yeah. By the way, it was sandwiched in between a trip to Evanston. Listen to this stretch next year. At Nebraska, Michigan State at home, at Northwestern, Whiskey at home. Tough stretch in the middle of – that's October, by the way. It's not November, so tough stretch here. But going back to Ryan Day, he's supposed to be this guru, supposed to be a hot coach, so I'll give Buckeye fans temper. I've been hearing great things about him, so you should be excited about it. But we should never underestimate how much pressure that guy's under next year to win.
Yeah. Boosters.
Boosters and fans.
See, and I'm not going to be that tough on him as a fan.
We'll see. It gets tough when you start losing games, and you're going to Piscataway and you're 5-5, right?
Well, can the defense clean up, and can Haskins take the next step?
We'll see. Well, by the way, will Haskins come back? That's another thing, too. He can go to the draft this year, so it'll be interesting. But all that said, Day's the guy now, and he's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders. Schedule breaks right from early. As the year goes on, it gets a lot more tougher. We'll have to wait and see, obviously, as Urban Meyer. And by the way, I think that will become, the Rose Bowl. Don't be surprised if it's a big send-off. We'll get into a bowl preview show later, but that should be a huge send-off for Urban as he goes off against Washington. Now to the Cavs.
Cleveland Cavaliers.
There are certain people who have certain things in my life as players, and you're like, I don't know why, but I love this guy. Dellavedova is definitely one of those guys. I love Delly.
Yeah.
It's just
Delly
nice
and JR, I think, are in my two most recent.
JR is a good example. Mark Price, Larry Nance, junior and senior. Love them both.
Yeah.
We just mentioned Clay Matthews. Clay's another one of those guys. Dellavedova is another. It's great to have Dellavedova back in Cleveland. So George Hill, which we've been talking about, has finally been traded. It's a three-way trade between the Bucks and the Wizards and the Cavs. The Cavs get back Dellavedova. I'm a big fan of John Henson. I don't think he'll be here throughout the year, but Henson also comes over in that deal. But the big parts here are for how much we love Delly. The big things here are the first and second round draft picks from Milwaukee. Yeah. Could be 2022 Cavs fans out there, because in 2021, Milwaukee has a certain situation with the Suns, and the Suns could take that draft pick. So, be wary. It could be a few more years for those draft picks. The big thing here, Jared, and you and I are kind of talking about this before we went on the air. It's great. Excited about Dellavedova coming back. I'm such a fan. If I'm being honest here, this is a big trade down when it comes to talent this year now. I love Dellavedova, but he's not been the same player really since he's been in Milwaukee. And even then, I don't know how great he really was.
Yeah, you're not getting back the Delly of 2015.
Even that Delly
on the court.
Right, and even that Delly, we all knew his talent was limited.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we got to beware. Like, it's great. The draft picks is certainly why we're doing it. Again, I've been already hearing John Henson's going to be flipped before the year's out. So the big thing here is the draft picks. I'm telling you, this is a big talent lost here. And I love Dellavedova, but I got to be fair. The Cavs basically trading on the court Hill for Dellavedova, it's a big trade down. Just saying.
Well,
love Delly.
And I've also mentioned that I think that the benefit of also bringing Delly back is the same benefit of signing, Kevin Love long term, and that's to at least try to keep people in the seats through the process of the rebuild.
I agree.
And are we going to package some of these picks to ensure that if we don't get the number one in the lottery, that we can try to move up? Or I really think that the Cavs are going to want Zion, and I think Zion's going to go one. So
I'll just say this. This is the first trade where they're not really stockpiling even for next year. I mean, this is draft picks for 2021, maybe even 2022 with the first rounder. I mean, that's way down the road.
Yeah.
So it's tough getting excited about this. Hey, we got draft picks. Yeah, we did, but we don't even see them until maybe 3 years down the road.
Right.
It's a long time from now. So we'll see. I know you're getting at too. I think the Cavs are, we haven't done it. It's wait. I learned this. Don't really get into hook. Like Zion's the guy. By the way, Zion couldn't dunk the ball against Hartford this week. So it shows too. Like there are weeks where even him, like he doesn't look great. I just think the Cavs, it's going to be a long road back, and they're certainly stripping it to the studs. I think, again, it should be mentioned. It'll be interesting to see if Love does get traded by the end of the year. I just think you have to keep that in mind now with these kind of trades. So great to see Delly back. All that said, I'm excited about that. Doesn't mean wins at all, but good to see Delly back. The Cavs lost last night. The one thing I'm taking out of these games, Jared, I do want to mention, they have got to make sure to keep Clarkson in Cleveland. He's really having a nice year.
Absolutely.
And a down year. Clarkson's really playing well. Sexton had a good night with 23 points. Burks has been playing well for the Cavs, by the way, and early on. So, I was thinking they're going to flip him like they would Henson. Maybe not. I don't know. But they've kind of figured out the guards. I'll tell you the other thing I'll notice. I don't want to say too much on the courts. I know the Cavs are so bad that people don't want talking about it. I'm interested to see how Rodney Hood fits in at all into any kind of scheme for next year.
He doesn't.
I'm not seeing it.
He doesn't.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it. Rodney Hood has been one of my bigger disappointments on this team.
Yeah, I don't think he's back.
I don't think that's unfair to say.
Yeah, I honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they dump him for little to nothing on a trade. I think that might be in play too.
Well, and let's jump back to Kevin Love. Are you watching these games going, man, I miss Kevin Love?
Well, yes.
Is he really? Really?
I do.
See,
because the Cavs could really use him right now.
I don't know,
but he's not a difference maker. He's not a difference maker.
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting at. I get the idea behind wanting to keep him, and I know Cavs fans. I know the everyday fan would say I'm crazy for it, not wanting, for saying that, even talking about trading him. I just don't know what he gets us at the end of the road, especially if we're talking about draft picks 3 years down the road. He's got 1 year left on a deal. What is the point?
Kevin Love, though, is a good player. He just can't elevate your team. And I'll tell you, here's something else that I would say about Love. Let's look to Houston. Houston's got a very talented player in James Harden.
Right.
And they're not even playing 500 basketball right now. So at times, what I'll say about Love, yes, he's not LeBron, obviously. Yes, he's certainly not even some of these guys you see on the Warriors or whatever else. But you need parts like that to win games and keep competitive. And it's amazing in the NBA for how much James Harden is looked upon, and he's a fantastic player. The Rockets are really been a disappointment, right?
Yeah.
And everybody would say you can't trade James Harden. So that's my other argument the other way. Sometimes in basketball, we rely too much on, hey, Kevin Love's got to win us 20 games, 25 games. Well, he can't do that. And by the way, even James Harden can't. There's only a few rare players, and obviously we had one of them, and thank God we did.
And the rest of them are all on another team.
That's right. That's right. So that's the Cavs. They play again tonight against Washington. Again, when the game's on the court, it's kind of hard to break down. But if you want some positives, Clarkson's been a big positive. We kind of mentioned Tristan, too, at times. And Sexton's keeping plugging along, which is nice to see. The other team, though, in Cleveland, the third team, I think is going to be the big team we're going to talk about next week. Nothing's happened yet. Winter meetings this week start tomorrow in Vegas. They last through Thursday.
Cleveland Indians.
The Indians have been really championed in all these buzz stories. Every story I've been reading, Jared, the Indians and Kluber being traded, the Indians and possibly trading Bauer. Carrasco signed to a longer-term deal. So Carrasco's now out of that loop as he should be. When he signed like that to that kind of deal, he's now off the market. There's no doubt the Indians are trying to maneuver money around, not just for prospects, but they're actually trying to maneuver to get a bat in this lineup. And so hopefully a center or left or right fielder. They really want someone in the outfield to plug in there.
Right.
The big things that I'm hearing sounds like Kluber is the more, he should be, he's a 2-time Cy Young Award winner. More teams are fascinated by. And what the Indians are trying to do is package Kipnis in that deal to take more money off the books. So the bigger thing here is, Jared, the Indians are trying to shave money down again, even more than just Kluber, to add money back in with a bat.
Well, and I talked about this off air, and the bummer of it is I wish that there was a way to package the Bauer and Kipnis, but Bauer and Kipnis just sounds like baggage. On the field and social media wise. So, there's baggage there, and Kluber Kipnis just sounds so much more appealing.
It does.
I hate to say it, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are teams out there that want a Bauer.
Well, Bauer's younger. Bauer's also still at his upside, but Kluber is a proven commodity.
Yes.
And I think that's just – I'll be honest with you, I don't even think it matters so much about attitude and stuff. Kluber's proven winner, solid. And the only thing that stinks, and I'm surprised I'm saying this, but I think last year rubbed so many people the wrong way, and I don't know – I get it in the playoffs. I think people are maybe in a way Kluber – maybe Kluber feels this. Maybe it's time for change, Time to get out of town and do something new. I hope that's not the case, but
Lord knows you can't read the guy.
No, you can't. But I just think Kluber's such a positive. I'm with you. No, it's nothing really against Bauer. It's just proven commodities and winner. Like Kluber's been proven. Even though Bauer's younger, I would like to see Kluber stay in the team. I think the bigger thing here, though, is whether he stays or goes, Kipnis, if he stays in this town, and I love Kipnis, I love his energy, I love what he provides, he has to play better. Has to.
Can he?
Has to. I don't know. He's had a really rough year and a half now. He's going to have to play better if he stays there. So that's the end. I think the next time you and I are on, I would be surprised we're not hearing even more rumor or something finally gets had. Right. I think the Indians are going to make a move. Do you agree?
I do. It's strange, too. You know what popped up in my feed yesterday was MLB Live posted a meme basically calling out that the 2019 starting rotations, that the Indians have the best rotation in baseball coming into 2019. I thought it was strange coming off this early, especially with names still being talked about in regard to making moves. I don't know. That just stood out to me because it was unexpected, and it was done by by MLB Live, their official Facebook page. So.
The thing I'll end on the Indians is a positive on the field. If you do keep Bauer, with Bauer, who I think will get better on the field, I think Clevenger will be better. We know what Carrasco is. He's a solid 2 pitcher. He's not an ace, but he's a solid 2.
Right.
And you just think on some crazy moon planet that maybe Salazar could be at least a reliever out the bullpen or something. The Indians on paper do have a lot of parts. They really do when it comes to their depth.
And again, it's a year where they can do it in that division.
It's you know what, I really want to see what the Indians do here in the winter meetings, but I think the Indians are going to be more challenged than what people know in that division. And it's not because the teams are great. I just think the Indians have a lot to battle against. This is a very different Indians team next year already. Yeah. And I'll tell you, I know why they did it. Jan Gomes not being on this team, I think is going to hurt more than people think.
Yeah, I didn't even want to talk about that. I was ready to move on. That's still an upsetting move.
We'll save that for a different show, but I'll tell you that.
I know, that might come back to haunt him.
That might. All right, as I got to wrap up.
How many runs does that guy prevent? Sorry, I just had to. All right, I'm done. Son of a... As a parent out there who knows, all these basketball league games start at usually 10 o'clock, as mine do. So I'm going to go through the wrap up quickly. Heisman tonight. Yep.
I think it's Tua. I've heard a lot of people talking about. Man, he slips my mind.
Kyler? Are you talking about Kyler Murray?
Yeah.
Kyler Murray's got much better numbers. Kyler Murray's got better numbers than Dwayne Haskins.
Well, Haskins isn't going to win.
Kyler Murray's got 51 touchdown passes, the same as Haskins. In all honesty, I don't know.
We'll take a look. I think Tua should win this award. He's been the best player. He really has been. That, in my opinion.
The end of the season, I don't think bodes well for him, though. It does help that a lot of these guys voted before the very end of the season. That would bode well for Tua. But, it's going to be close between Kyler and Tua. I don't think it should be Haskins, but I think Haskins could be a 2. He's up there.
I spent a lot of time with Herschel Walker this week, and he opened up my eyes to how people really view it being close between Murray and Tua. So to your point, I didn't think it would be. I think it's going to be a very close race tonight. I think Tua wins, though, and I think he deserves it. I think Tua's been the better player. For college basketball, things to watch. I mean, it's the first weekend, no college football. I would watch Wisconsin Marquette. I know Marquette's not ranked, but that's a good team. I have no idea why. I don't want to go on a huge rant. Tennessee Gonzaga is a great basketball game, but you're going to throw that on tomorrow on Sunday at 3 o'clock? I just don't understand sometimes who schedules these things. Tennessee Gonzaga is a fantastic college basketball game. Jared, I'd be all over it. I'm not watching it at 3 o'clock for obvious reasons tomorrow.
See, I don't know. 3 o'clock, I didn't think that was a bad time on a Sunday. You're getting people coming home from their day.
I'm watching Browns Panthers, and I need to decompress. I will be ready around 5 o'clock, and the game will be over.
Yeah, I guess you could bump it a few hours. Yeah, I don't know. What are you running into on the 4:30 on the 4 o'clock game? So,
well, I mean, yeah, there's some game. I'm just telling you, it's not. I'll just leave it at that. I can't get over games at 3 o'clock. Terrible timing for a game. Terrible. And it's a great matchup. My Boilermakers also play tomorrow at Texas. Boy, Purdue's had someday I got to do a separate Purdue podcast. They have had a tough schedule this year coming out. The last thing I'll end on, I did spend time with Herschel.
Yeah.
Walker for a different project I'm working on for a documentary. And Herschel made an interesting revelation to me that I don't think he'll mind me telling. So we were talking, and he goes, and I mentioned to him I was a Browns fan and kind of mentioning what I've been doing. And he goes, I watched Baker Mayfield, and I was like, I just don't see him being a big-time NFL player. Because I heard some things about him, but I just didn't get his bravado or his energy. And then I met him. And Herschel goes, because he went out to the Rose Bowl because he's a Georgia alum.
Yeah.
And he goes, once I met Baker Mayfield, I came back because he obviously still talked about in the league in those circles. Every owner I went up to, he goes, don't believe the negative press. This kid is going to be a winner. A winner. He goes, I was impressed by his practice. I was impressed by how he carried himself. He's a leader.
Yeah.
He goes, I was blown away by one Rose Bowl setup about how this kid really rolls. He goes, I knew from day one he was going to be a winner once I met him and saw him in person.
Isn't that crazy?
It is. It is. And again, as I told Herschel, I kind of had the same reservations. But, boy, after seeing him in one preseason game, I changed completely. I'll say, again, I'm glad I've never been so wrong. But to hear that from another guy, too, and I had the same viewpoint Herschel did. He goes, until I saw him in person. He goes, and I don't change that drastically. And, boy, he was blown away. So it tells you we have something very special. I'll say this, Jared. This season wraps up. These 4 games are cool and they're interesting, and we'll always be into them as Browns fans. There's going to be so much hype and buzz around the Browns next year.
Yep.
Oh, you can already feel it. It's almost like when September 19th. When is it?
Yeah.
Let's tee it up.
Yeah,
now.
I'm not anxious for the draft. I'm anxious for the season.
I am too.
Right?
It's going to be the most anticipated Browns season in a positive way.
I'm looking forward to seeing Baker out there at Progressive Field in the offseason.
I am too. That's a good point. It's going to be his first offseason in Cleveland, really.
Yep.
When you're a rookie and you get drafted, it's I don't know how much an offseason is. This will be his first true offseason in Cleveland. That's a good point. So I wanted to throw that Herschel Walker story in. Make sure someone who appreciates, played the game, is a great athlete and a Heisman Trophy winner. To hear him say something like that, it's like, wow, that says a lot. So I think we all knew it, but to hear that again, it makes you feel good about what we got here in town.
Yep.
I think that kind of wraps up everything I had. Again, interested to see if the Browns can win a game against a team that's trying to make the playoffs. The Browns in back-to-back weeks here at Denver is going to be hard too. Browns get no let-up in the schedule. The Cavs, we mentioned the trade. Delly's back, and I think in a weird way the Indians might steal the show in this trade meetings. I get the feeling they're going to be a big topic on the podcast, whether it's early next week or late. I think it's going to be a big topic.
Well, I only have one more thing, and that's a shout-out to one of my favorite comedians of all time, Mr. Bill Burr. Thank you, my friend, for shutting Colin Cowherd up in regard to his incessant complaining about the way Baker Mayfield is acting. Get over it, Colin. Bill Burr, you nailed it, as usual, and that's all I have to say about that. So put a smile on my face to see that running through social media yesterday. He's Andy Billman. I'm Jared Watson. This is Andy and Jared, Cleveland and beyond. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be talking probably Indians trades in a couple of days. We'll see how that goes, and hopefully discussing a Browns win in the next couple of days as well. Take care, everybody. Hey, don't forget to follow Andy and Jared, Cleveland and Beyond on Facebook at facebook.com/Cleveland and Beyond, and on Twitter at CLE and Beyond. That's at CLE and Beyond on Twitter. You can also shoot us an email, andyandjared@gmail.com. Looking forward to hearing your comments.